Hello everyone, it's Big Alski. Well, this is day 3, part 2 of Ninja Gaiden 3 on Ultimate Ninja. We're going into this building, whatever it is. We have the alchemists. We're going to take care of them the usual way with the claws, the Y, to knock them down, followed by, forward Y, XXXY to a Zuna drop. And, if I haven't said this before, whenever I say forward Y, that means towards the enemy. So, if they're, to the left of me, forward Y would be, I would push the thumbstick in the, direction of, the left. So, there's a few other ways that you can fight these guys. I think, I talked earlier about, the scythe using that and the running XX with the dragon sword, but there's another move too that I haven't talked about yet, and it's running YY with the claws, where he kind of, dashes towards the enemy, or kind of jumps, I guess, towards the enemy, and then if the second Y connects, it'll launch him up in the air, and then you can press XY to do the Azuna drop. And here, we had the Nimpo built up. Why take any chances? Just go ahead and kill the guys. But anyway, I have a hard time with the running YY, into the Azuna drop with the claws, so I don't use it. But, again, maybe with a little practice I could, get that done. But right now, the method that I'm using, works best for me. Now, I wanted to do something a little different with these guys, maybe try to stay aggressive. We're trying to kick each other's ass, from, the other side of the stairs there. So it was kind of funny. I was going to see if it would hit, but, it didn't at all. But I wanted to stay aggressive with the claws. The one part that I did notice a lot is I would know where the enemies are, and I would try to, push in the direction of the enemies, but Ryu, would go the other way. I didn't forget about that OT, so I had to go finish that off. But, it happens a lot coming up here, and it's really kind of frustrating. You'll see what I'm talking about. And one thing, whenever you do OT the guys, or not OT, excuse me, Steel on Bone, they really like to drop the grenade. See, there's an example of it. Again, I keep pushing towards that guy, but he wants to go the other way. It's really frustrating. But, they like to drop the grenades. Now, there's a Steel on Bone you can do with the X, and a Steel on Bone you can do with the Y. And if you do it with the Y, it launches Ryu up in the air just in time for you to land on the grenade. So that happens towards the end here. But I try to always do the Steel on Bone with the X. Another way you could fight these guys, see how he dropped the grenade right there, is you could do the on-landing 360, and it, it kind of has, better reach, kind of maybe goes in the direction, of the guys, and, pick them up to do the Azuna drop. But, I really wanted to try to stay on them, as much as I could, and just really be aggressive. Because we're in this big open area. So, again, to just try something different. It seemed to work pretty good. I mean, I fought him a little bit faster than I think on my last run, so I'm happy with that. So see, he drops it right there, but I did it with the X. But now watch, I do it with the Y right there, or end up hitting the Y and going up, and, it just nailed me. So I'm happy with that run. Here, same usual 360Y with the scythe. I actually do really good here. I look like a professional, but you'll see it a little bit later on, where I dog it again. If you don't feel comfortable with that, again, you can blade of Nariti, and then when you land, do the slide Y and target the next dog, and just do it with the dragon sword. Again, that's the other way of doing it. That's effective. I mean, I'm sure there's other ways of doing it as well. You know, that always doesn't, you know, pick them up to launch them into a Zuna drop. So, you know, I got a little lucky there. I've said it in other videos, there's nothing wrong with a little luck every now and then. Now this is something right here. I usually tried to avoid that guy, but you know, always did. And this time I said, well, let him grab me and see what happens. And it works because you kill one of them and then that's done. You don't have to mess with that. And then, you know, I flying swallowed, you know, that guy and instant killed him. You know, and I'm not really sure how that works. I've tried that with the claws, and I've tried it, and it might be a certain distance. There's some other guys out there with videos that, you know, have, you know, better success with that than I have. You know, I just couldn't get it to work consistently, and you know, for these videos, I wanted to really not only get through them, but you know, just be as consistent as possible, you know, to save me some frustration. And I still, you know, again, try to stay aggressive, you know, with them. And you see how it kind of, you know, he went one way for one swing and went the other way. You know, sometimes the inconsistencies gets a little frustrating because, you know, it'll pull you opposite ways and you won't go anywhere. And then, you know, you end up getting punished. But boy, they like to drop those grenades before they die. But after I get done with the combo, I always try to, you know, while they're still visible, you know, try to slide, you know, towards them again, because when you hit them, it makes them, you know, appear. So I always try to, again, you know, just stay really aggressive with that. Now here's something, you know, I tried, you know, the dinosaur running back and forth and doing all that, but, you know, I read that if you know, stay underneath his legs, you can just, you know, do this, and that's what really triggers him is, you know, hurting his legs. There goes my big lummox fingers again. But I don't really, you know, do a good chain on this, and so I have to really kind of get back into it. You know, one way of doing it is, you know, sometimes just jumping straight up in the air and then doing the on-landing 360. But it makes this so much easier going straight for the legs.
What's wrong, hero? Notice something?
So might as well stick with the 360 for the head. I think you can do like forward YYY or it's YYY. That's a pretty good combo move as well.
It appears your vaunted sword isn't enough.
And then once he, you know, lifts his head up that high, you know, it's time to, you can finish off killing him. Now I skipped all the running through the hall scene. I mean, there's really no reason to, you know, have that there. So one of the videos that I watched, I believe it's Dave Gravester. I hope I'm saying his name right. He has a video out with some walkthroughs, and you know, I like to go through and watch other people's videos and, you know, learn about the game and, you know, pass that knowledge on since I'm making these videos. But you know, he said the dinosaur would fall, you know, pretty quickly as long as you don't jump. While he's running back and forth, as long as you slide or walk, you know, it'll be okay. I guess whenever you jump, he senses that or something like that, and that's what keeps him from doing that. I know I ended up finishing the chapter like, you know, 10 minutes faster than I did, you know, my last run, because he just ran back and forth all the time and I couldn't figure it out. So props go to, you know, Dave for sharing that in his video, and you know, I'm passing along too. Also, this is kind of a fake, you know, ending there. If you try to attack him, you know, he'll grab you and kill you. So again, just kind of slide dodge out of the way, You can do, use whatever weapon you want to. It's so much easier instead of waiting, 8 or 10 minutes, for him to finally kill him and then you mess up. So again, props to the guy for sharing that, and again, I want to pass it on and give credit where credit's due. So that's it, for this guy right here. It's kind of a dumb boss fight, but knowing that, how to make sure he doesn't fall down, made it a lot more bearable, I can tell you that. So that's the end of day 3. Again, I think I gained a little points here for my last run, and really because it's, it was the time. I did it in a faster time. But that's it. We'll see you in day 4. I need to get this encoded and uploaded. We'll see y'all later. Thanks a lot. Take care.